Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. He's Dope, I'm Dharma, and this is Dharma Time. This is our 1 hour a week where we get philosophical on you, or spiritual, however you want to define. And we're technically on time, by the way. We started at 1 o'clock on the dot, so thank you, Leo Rhines, there for helping us with some audio. Well, I don't know, did he really help us? He just pointed it out, and we never really fixed it. So.
Oh, Leo?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, but apparently on our Facebook Live, people are having a hard time hearing your voice, which is normal because you're a very low, soft-spoken individual, and it's just the life you live. It's just part of it. It's what comes with you.
Yeah.
So you really need to learn to, project your voice a little bit there better.
Yeah, that's what,
exactly.
After it's 22 years on the show, so 28 years radio experience, and I still don't know how to project my voice.
There you go. Anyways, welcome everybody. This is once again this is the Dharma Time hour here of Dope and Dharma. We're glad to be here with you today. Do we have any housekeeping we got to do before we jump right into it? Well, our golf tournament is coming up. Huh?
Happy birthday, you! You had a birthday.
I did on the 25th. I don't know. Did we do a show on our birthday? I don't remember if we did a show or not on the birthday, but yes, I had a birthday on the 25th. Thank you. And it's coincidentally enough, that's actually what we're talking about today is aging. But
happy birthday, Jimmy, my brother too, man, because he's old now. So He's gonna be February 3rd.
Yeah. Well, before we get to that, I will say that yes. As of yesterday, our website is showing the correct date and location of our golf tournament coming up on April 11th, I believe, of this year.
Yeah,
and we're gonna be in a new place, right? Red Tail, I think it was, or
Red Tail Golf Club.
Right on. So looking forward to doing that.
So challenging, Trinity. That course is no joke, man. You know what? Bring your balls. You're gonna need a lot of balls. Not only because
I got at least 2 of them. So
well, you're gonna need them. And then you're gonna lose them in the water. There's water everywhere. There's swamp everywhere.
Nice. It is Florida, so.
This is a Florida course, man.
Right on. Florida. Well, so for any of you who want to aid us in our journey to help those struggling with addiction, by all means, you can go to nowmattersmore.org, click on the golf tournament, and you can buy some sponsorships. You can buy holes, all sorts of stuff. So even if you're not within our state, but you want to support, there's many ways of doing so. But anyways, I digress. Let's get this started, man. I'm kind of interested. Once again, you and I are trying this new thing where we don't even discuss the topic ahead of time. We kind of just let it happen.
It's a new thing, huh?
Well, normally we
TV show
yeah. Well, normally we at least discuss it like a couple minutes prior to, but today we really haven't done that. And we didn't do it last night when we were doing WOKB 1680 here locally, and it seems to be working out well. So I think we try it until it doesn't.
I kind of like it that way, Trinity.
Yeah, I think it comes off better.
Although I feel bad because at least typically I shower and get ready before the show, and like I did, so I look all like I'm looking at it and I was like, damn man, I just look like a stoner that doesn't have a job.
Well,
if I had to judge me on me.
Well, so it's today's topic, right? Let's get into that one. So I was sitting here, and we had a topic a couple weeks ago that we were going to do, but then that got pushed aside when some local things happened, and we talked about that instead, and it happened again. So this morning, I was sitting here and trying to just come up with what we're going to talk about, looking for inspiration, if you will, and then I was scrolling on my phone, and I found apparently a beauty queen. Let me get her name right.
You were scrolling on your phone and found a beauty queen.
No. I found an article. Cheslie Kryst. She was Miss USA 2019. So Miss USA 2019, Cheslie Kryst. Apparently she jumped out of a 60-story window and killed herself.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the reason why it caught my attention was some of the reasoning that was given. So apparently she wrote an essay. I think it was last year, maybe. This isn't a news show, so if I get my dates wrong, I apologize. But I believe it was last year, maybe the year before. She wrote an essay, and within this essay, she covered an array of topics that were bothering her, that were on her mind, or whatever. But one of the things that she mentioned, and it seemed to to rise to the top. And even now, when people are talking about her death, which was just a couple days ago, age seemed to come up quite a bit, right? And it was her take that I guess when she won the Miss USA, she was one of the oldest ones to do it at 28, I think it was. And she had this issue with turning 30, right? Turning 30 was like a big deal for her apparently, and it was her perspective that the world is unkind to people, especially women, turning 30 and up, and essentially aging, right? And so that got me to thinking, aging as a topic. I just had a birthday, obviously, a couple weeks ago. Apparently, people around us are having birthdays, like Shaw, his wife, the owner of this.
It's the thing to do to have a birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like a bunch of followers.
Well, studies show the more birthdays you have, the longer you live. So, but
studies also show that 100% of the people that are alive today had a birthday.
Exactly. Anyways, so it got me thinking about aging, man. Aging is an interesting topic because I do think that once upon a time there was this stigma attached to it. I don't personally feel that it's that big of a deal anymore. Like, I think that perspective is reality kind of a thing. And so I don't think that there's ageism as much as there used to be in certain circles. Do I think it exists? Of course. But do I think it is especially 30? I don't think that's a big deal. But I don't know. I just want to talk about aging. I think it's something that we're all doing. If you're watching this, you're aging. We all handle it differently. There's different. And we're introduced to it differently. Some people struggle, some people don't. So I don't know. I wanted to talk about aging. I think it's an interesting topic, right? One of the things that I've always had a hard time understanding are the people who are so afraid or against aging, right? Like, we all know at least one person that doesn't want to be called old, or talking about age they just don't like to do, or they're terrified, or they lie about their age. We all know at least one person that does that.
Right. I got one in my mind.
I've never understood that, right? Like, I've never been able to wrap my head around why. And for full disclosure, my mother, she may or may not be watching this. My mother was never one of those people that, like, don't ever ask somebody their age, that kind of stuff. And I've talked to her about, like, oh, you're getting old. She's like, yeah, it's getting old is a lot better than the alternative, So I come from that kind of an upbringing where she just doesn't really care either. So it kind of filtered to me to where I also don't care. Like, for instance, I have a beard full of gray hair, and I've got friends who will remain nameless, but dye their beard. And they'll even tell me, like, oh, you don't dye? Like, no, like, I've earned these, man. Like, I'm proud of getting older. So let's start there, right? Is aging something to be embarrassed or to be shy of? And my take on that is no. I think getting older is something to be proud of, right? Because to me, getting older means you've succeeded, right? You've made it through another year, bro. Like, you've managed to navigate this world where there's so many things out there trying to hurt you and trying to kill you and trying to end you. We don't think of it that way because maybe we don't live in a war zone or something. But, we have COVID that's trying to take out everybody. We have cars driving by you at ridiculous speeds. If you just step out at the wrong moment, you're gone. You got people choking on peanuts. There's a ton of things out in this world that can kill you if you're not paying attention. And yet, you made it. You made it another year, man. Like, you succeeded. So, for me, I'm proud of my age. I'm proud of getting up there. I'm proud of being successful in going through the ranks. I'm not one of those people that's ashamed of it or embarrassed or trying to lie about my age. I'm 21 and I've been that way for 20 years. No, I'm not that guy. And I don't understand why people do that. So what are your thoughts? And you too. You seem like you're pretty proud of it as well. You don't dye your beard. You got some gray poking in there. You're never shy about telling people how old you are. So where's your philosophy on that one as well?
I agree with you. I'm the strongest, fastest swimmer. And from that point forward, I've always been a winner. And so I'm proud of it. I agree with you. I didn't put my finger in the light socket.
Yeah.
So I did, but I didn't die from it. No, I didn't die in accidents, though I've had them.
Yeah.
Die from
I've had plenty of those.
So many, right. I got my drug days without dying. There's just so many things. I've been shot at 3 different times.
Right.
I have not even a bullet wound on my body. I mean, when you think of all the things that you have lived through, at least I do. I think of all the things that I've lived through. I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity of life. I'm extremely grateful to everyone who helped along the way at whatever capacity. Some didn't make it all the way with me to this point, but they were still instrumental, and they were still helpful, and they were still educational along the way. So yeah, I agree with you, man. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. Plus, here's what I think, Trinity.
Right.
I think when you're an older person and you lie about your age, you cheat yourself of someone saying, "Wow, you look good for your age."
Well, based upon your post last week, I don't think I look good.
Well, I'm just saying.
The last 10 years have been rough.
Well, I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about, there's a woman that I'm thinking about that does it. And she does that to people. In my comments to her has always been, by saying that, people when they walk away, they're probably thinking, ugh. Wow. You know what I mean? Instead of you being proud of your number and then them going, wow, she looked great.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's an issue. I think that when people do that and they don't just flat out be honest about it, you rob yourself of people just of embracing you for who you are instead of some character you've created. And mind you, by the way, that is not my mother or a family member of mine that I was mentioning.
Sure. Well, let's touch on that, though. Like, let's touch on, not your mother and them, but let's touch on that concept, right? Like, because I was actually on the phone before because I do want to talk about aging in general and how much it can suck sometimes. But before we get to that, I would like to touch, because I had an impromptu debate with my mother prior to coming on here, because she is older than me, so I called her to get her intake and or input, and just, hey, what are your general thoughts? Because, you're getting older now, and what are your thoughts on this entire thing? And one of the things we did talk about was the fact that this beauty queen, was under the impression that getting older was considered a bad thing or whatever. And my take on that was, I don't feel that that's true. I feel that that's a perspective. I don't feel like that's universally true, because whenever I turn on the TV, the majority of the people we're watching that we're looking to and we're getting to, they're all older. Like, for instance, the number one person that everybody's talking about yet again today in sports world is Tom Brady. And they're not talking about how, he needs to leave. No, they're all amazed at 44 what he's been able to do, and there's so much respect and accolades, right? And so, and you kind of indirectly touched on that by saying this individual that you're thinking of looks fantastic for their age. And so if they were just to be honest about that, they would be praised. But instead, they think they have this mindset that everybody's going to judge it, so they lie about it, when it actually kind of makes the situation worse. It's the idea that you and I are always talking about, where nobody cares, right? Everybody's so focused on their own insecurities and their own issues, they really don't care about yours the way you think that they do. And so I think age is kind of the same thing. I think that, I can't comment for what it was 30, 40 years ago, but from what I'm looking at it now, it doesn't feel to me that we're in an era right now where you're like bashed for being older. Are there people that do it? Of course. But there's people who bash people for being younger as well. But I know whenever I watch, television programs, be it reality, be it, scripted, be it news, when I look in the sporting world or whatever, it's like respect your elders type of a thing. It's like you're considered to have a certain amount of experience. You're considered to have a certain amount of wisdom, and, you're a veteran type of thing. Once again, yes, there are people out there that, oh, you boomer, shut up. Like, I hear that, but it feels to me like that's not the norm. That's the outcast, right? They might be the loudest voices in the room, but I think they're outnumbered. I think it's a perceptual thing. And it's sad to me, especially, this girl was getting ready to turn 30, dude. Like, that is not old, man. Like, the idea of, in her mind, like, I guess what I'm getting at, and nothing would be, in theory, validation for killing yourself. But turning 30 would be so far down the list, man. Like, yeah. We're not talking about somebody who has something that you can intellectually look at, and while you might not agree, you can understand the thought process that led to it. Turning 30, to me, I don't know anybody that would look at that and be like, yeah, that makes sense. I get it. No, man. But in her mind, it did, and that's what I think is sad, is her reality convinced her that was a real issue. And granted, I think she had trolls and things of that nature, people were commenting, but And people would point to that as a justification from her perspective. But I would say that there's probably just as many people out there, if not more, who would praise her. Everybody gets negative comments, man. I mean, even we do. We post some of these videos, and there's always it's the internet, dude. There's going to be people out there who are going to troll you and say stupid things on the internet. You can't base your sense of value and well-being off of what some stranger on the internet says, because people on the internet are just horrible people. Like, even good people in day-to-day life turn into horrible people on the internet, it seems. And so this idea that the world is out there judging you because you're old, I don't see it, man. I don't.
Well, I think I would, I'm not a betting man and I'm not that kind of risk taker, but I would tend to believe that there's probably something else that's going on. I mean, that
of course,
factor, and that may be the factor that made it to the light to our awareness. But I would venture to say there was some other mental health issues that may have been.
Oh, of course. I'm just referencing her essay that she wrote.
And there was a tipping point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
However, would also say that if you measure your entire existence by a certain occupation or a certain ability, and that occupation or that ability is coming to an end, then you need to deal with that.
Yep.
We all need to deal with that, and that is not always easy. I remember when you were going through some things several years back, and
yeah, man,
you were talking openly about it on our shows, and you were sharing your medical complications that you were going through at the time on our shows, which I thought was really awesome because it allowed people to speak about theirs and their fears about not being as strong as they used to be, not being as fast as they used to be, not being as quick or whatever. I shared it last night. I said, for the first time, it kind of hit me the other day when I was at physical therapy. For those that don't know, I had spinal cord surgery, and so I have not been able to. I chose not to run for years. I hadn't run ever since I busted out my knees in my 20s. You know what I mean? I hadn't really ran, but I didn't want to.
That's why I have car keys.
Yeah, I chose not to. But now, when I was doing some exercises for this surgery recuperation and physical therapy, I can't move the way I used to, and that was shocking. To not be able to just have that the little movements that I used to be able to do.
Right.
As a kid, I was slimy Louie. You couldn't tackle. I'd run through you. I did that Tyreek Hill kind of thing. Like, and,
right.
Dude, you should have seen me do it. I look like a deer that just came out.
Right.
Like my legs were like, and I was like, oh. So now, I want to at least run again, not because I want to run, but because I think I just have to one more time at least. Just to do it.
Yeah.
So I think ability is challenging, and some of these jobs out here. When I was in Hollywood, bro, it was all about youth and all about.
Of course.
You're too fat, you're too short, you're too this, you're too that. They can put it to you.
Of course.
That's why I always think it's funny when Hollywood, has a comment about anything.
Yeah, you started it.
There is nowhere more judgmental and rude and obnoxious as Hollywood. No.
Of course.
I don't care how they highlight it to anyone, because that is all about how you look. The shade. If your shade is off, they'll shade you differently.
Of course.
Everything is scrutinized. So it's I could see that she's in that world. She's a beauty queen. She's in that world.
She literally
So
is a
she's in
beauty
a different world
queen.
than us.
Yeah.
You and I aren't being judged for our gray beards. But if we were on national television and we were being judged for our gray beards, you never know. Maybe we would color it. I choose not to color it because it doesn't affect my daily life right now.
Right.
But if it was a difference between a couple dollars here and a couple dollars there, I'll color it for you.
Right.
Yeah, sure, I'll color it.
Yeah, well, and I think that was that was the sad part. Is it sounded to me, and that's where the spiritual part comes in, and that is that it sounded to me as if she wrapped up a lot of her value in the admiration, her job, her title, things of that nature, and it's sad to hear that, because we have so much more value than what we do, right? Like what our job description is or whatever. But we're all kind of in some instance or some sense guilty of that. right? And you know, like you alluded to earlier, I went through my own kind of like my own moments, and I still do. I mean, dude, I just turned 40. I don't know, 40 something, 41, 40. I don't remember.
I think you're 10 years younger than me, right? Like, what year were you born?
81. The very beginning of 81, January.
8 years. 8 years.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so for me, like the getting older process sucked, you know, like it didn't suck as in like getting fired, losing your job and everything else. No. It was more of a psychological thing for me because for so many years of my life, I was the big dude in the room that could kind of do whatever he wants, man. Like, I never saw a weight that was too heavy. I never looked at anybody that I was like, that I didn't feel that I was bigger, stronger, faster than. I measured my abilities as far as like the weight room, for instance, with like things that the Rock was doing. Like I saw what he was doing on there, so I did the same weight. So I was literally doing the same workouts that these NFL players and these, you know, wrestlers and things of that nature were doing. And I wrapped up a lot of my value in being that guy, the big dude in the room that could do whatever. And so as I started to get older and Father Time started to show up and take some of those things away from me, yeah, man, it was humbling. It was not a graceful process for me. You know, it was like running into a brick wall, and then you have the aftermath of like, whoa, what just happened? You know, because mine wasn't a gradual thing. I went through some medical issues that just slammed the door shut, and then, you know, I had to really kind of reevaluate things, man, and it was hard. It was very difficult to realize that I can't do the things that I wanted to do. Even now to this day, it's still, man, like, you know, it's still a mental process for me to like try to go do something and have that internal dialogue, like, come on, bro, you're not 20 anymore. Like, you're not going to be able to do that. Even though intellectually I know that, emotionally it's still a struggle. You know, emotionally, it's still a hard thing to try to go do something or have to admit to myself that I can't do that anymore, you know? And I think that part of getting older is acceptance, right? Like, I'm a huge Jordan fan. For me, Jordan is the greatest of all time. And I remember in his younger days, dude was dunking over everybody, flying all over the place, scoring 50 points a night. But then as he got older, he was still winning championships, but he was doing a lot more fadeaways. You know, he was doing a lot more passes and just doing more shooting and things of that nature. And so, you know, he didn't get worse. He just adapted. He changed a little bit. He accepted his limitations. And to me, that's where the grace of getting older comes in, is instead of fighting it, instead of looking at it as this, like, oh, this is happening to me and this sucks or whatever, you know, you can do that, but it's going to be a rough go of things. Instead of looking at it, like, you know what, all right, well, I can't do those things anymore, but what I can do is this, right? Like, for instance, I always felt that I was wise beyond my years when I was younger. I felt that I knew things that maybe I shouldn't know at such an early age, but nobody ever took me seriously because I was a kid. You know, people who were older than me look at me like, what do you know? The gray beard instantly gets me that level of respect, right? The second I start opening, instantly they're like, okay, well, you know, he's older, maybe he does know. Now, whether I do or not, we'll see. But the point is there are benefits to getting older. You do get wiser. You do understand things better. You're typically much more established. You know, your earning potential is different. You've picked up more skills and thoughts and stuff along the way. And, you know, you can focus on the things that suck, but at the end of the day, it's perception, right? If you perceive yourself as being older and it sucks and the world's out to get you and everything else, then that's what you're going to get. Because you're going to find that conflict everywhere you look. But if you choose to look at it as, hey, man, like a fine wine, baby, I'm getting older. You know, I think it was Leo says he doesn't get older, he gets better. You know, if you choose to look at it that way, then that's what you're going to get. I saw you laugh, and I saw Richard comment, so I can only imagine what it was. It says, for the record, you can let your hair grow back out. Stop fighting. No, man, I cannot wait till I go bald. That is the one thing that I'm looking forward to because I'm tired of shaving this all the time. I used to have long hair, and I got rid of it because I got tired of dealing with it.
Yeah, you know, here's the real sad truth is that somebody watching this or listening to this is struggling with it, and this is one of those issues where I think is a man-woman thing. I think men tend to be okay more with age because there's less value on our looks as on women.
Sure.
There's just perception that as long as a man has means, he can look however he wants. We have tons of proof of that.
When we get older, we get wiser. That's what the wrinkles are.
Well, in your own head, you could already think of how many rich men there are with beauty queens.
Sure.
You can just pick them out in your head. I mean, we know at least one of them.
Yes.
And so it's very different. But if you're a woman, it's a harder world. It's a harder world.
It can be.
It's one of those. It tends to be.
Yeah.
When it comes to age, there's a lot more emphasis on it, and it's not from men, by the way. It's from the women.
Yes.
It's not from us. I'm not saying because you probably don't want, as you grow as an older woman, you probably don't want someone as shallow as just wants you for youth or love.
Yeah.
That's not probably what you want. You probably want somebody who's willing to just walk it with you, and chill with you. But however, you go to one of those neighborhoods like my mom's parents, my mom and dad's neighborhood, or to the villages, those women are active. I can't keep up with them. As much as, look, if Dana leaves me, I'm going for an older Betty. There ain't no doubt about that. But even that older Betty's probably running circles around me because my mom is like active.
Right.
My mom is active, bro. She's always on the move, always going somewhere. My dad is like, I'll stay home. I'm good.
I feel him. He's my spirit animal.
I think like they keep revving up, so they may get older to a point where they don't like the way they look, or sagging here, sagging there, a little bit more here, a little bit less there. But as far as activity, women stay like moving.
Yeah.
I mean, they stay like with energy. Whereas guys, like we get older and we're like,
Yep.
That chair, that Archie Bunker chair, calls all of us. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anybody that doesn't get called by a recliner.
Right.
If you're a man and there's a recliner, it like goes, come sit over here, young man.
I miss you.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, man, I agree with you in that instance. Like, for instance, my wife is, she's getting older as well, and she struggled with that a lot. And I remember having conversations with her where she would be like nitpicking certain things that come with age. And as her husband, I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, those things don't matter to me at all. Like, I like those things. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, hell yeah. But in her mind, it was such a negative. And I was like, but it's not. Like, it doesn't, it didn't make sense to me, right? But I think that age is something that we all, to some form or fashion, do struggle with. Like, I never really struggled with the whole wrinkle or the gray hair thing. It was never bothered me. Matter of fact, I was proud of it. But like I said,
first of all, bro, like, look at your face. You don't have wrinkles. So,
well, I do up here, man. But I regardless.
Is that what you're calling wrinkles?
Is it? I don't know. I don't really. That's how little I pay attention to that. I don't even know.
But you do know people when they say wrinkles, it's because it's like right here, right here, right here, right here. I mean,
sure.
It's everywhere. You
don't
have a sticky face, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I never really. That wasn't what my focal point was, right? My focal point was the physicality, the limitations that come with getting older, right? Towards other people, it's we do tend to become less capable as we get older, right? And I don't mean that as right away. When I said that, there's a lot of people that, what do you mean? I'm not, and that's what I'm talking about. Is you have to understand we do become less capable, and I'm not even talking about physical capabilities. I'm talking about even mentally, right? Like, I look at the difference between I have generations, that I'm interacting with all the time.
Right.
I have my mother, who's in the older generation. And I remember her when I was a kid. My mom was on top of it, dude. And she had to be. She was raising me. And I was a little shithead. And she was just on top of everything. She just knew it. But now I see my mom start to get she'll get upset or frustrated over simple things now that just don't go a certain kind of way. Or maybe she's not able to do as quickly as she used to, and she gets frustrated with that. And then I look at myself and I feel like I'm not as capable as I was. Like, I remember when I was, like, when iPhones and all that stuff first came out, man, I knew it instantly and stuff. But now it's like, what? Like, I'll see my kids with some new thing. I'm like, it takes me a second, right? I still get it, but it doesn't come to me intuitively. I have to, like, all right, let me look into this for a second. And then I look at my younger ones, my 17-year-old or even my 10 and the 12-year-old. Dude, they're like lightning quick, no matter what it is. And so as we age, man, it's some of it might be cognitive ability, but some of it also is just, man, I got other things on my mind. It's easy to pick up the newest gadget when you're not worrying about how to pay the mortgage or something. And so it just, as we get older, man, some of those muscles just aren't used as much, and that's not a bad thing, right? It can be a bad thing if you allow it to be, but there's a certain liberation, right, or empowerment that comes with admitting where you're at. both good and bad. Like it's okay. Like we're not expected to be what we were at 20 for the rest of our life. Like that's just not going to happen. And the more you deny that, and the more you run from it, the more it is a weakness for you. But if you can understand and admit where you're at, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of, like, dude, there was a time in my life where you were talking last night about running and stuff, right? So I'm a big dude. I've always been a big dude. I'm built for power. I'm built for speed. I'm not built for long distance running. However, there was times where I would run. I was in the morning time. I would go run for 5-6 miles.
Really?
Yeah. But when somebody would say something like that, I would immediately take the challenge and be like, "Oh, watch this," right? But hearing you talk last night, that's how I know I'm getting older, because inside I didn't have that mental dialogue where I could still run. No, my mental dialogue was like, "Man, I am not running." That's why I got keys and stuff. And that's an example how I've just accepted that's just not where I'm at anymore. Right. You know, like I don't even have the desire to go out there and try to prove anybody wrong anymore. Like, well, I don't care. And that is a benefit, I think, of getting older, is what's important. I've established in my life it's no longer important to prove to anybody that I can go run a mile or whatever. I don't need to. It doesn't affect the value that I bring to the people around you. They're not looking at me to run a mile. They're looking at me to be something else in their life. And I got that way through the wisdom of aging, right? Because when I was younger, I didn't pass down a challenge. I was dumb enough to, no matter what the challenge was, I'll do it, and I don't need to do that anymore. Right? I'm not, those things don't control me. And the thing that I am interested to see is that next phase of life, when you start to get into your 60s and 70s, and the end is a little bit more paramount in your mind than it was. How that changes. And the thing that I've noticed for the people around me that are aging to that point, like, so I've noticed for me when I was younger, family and quality time, that kind of stuff, really wasn't that important to me. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. It was more important to me to have fun, go out there, experience new memories, and do things like that. Where I'm at now in my life, family is really important to me. My kids and seeing them happy, seeing them succeed, having friends around me that I enjoy, and letting my friends know that they're important to me, that kind of stuff. It's more important to me now. But what I've noticed is, for the older generations, it gets even more important later on. Like, I think you start to reflect, and you start to realize, what really matters in life. And so that's where, to me, I think the getting older part is actually good, because it's universal, right? For the most part, there's always outliers, but it's relatively universal that as we get older, all the same things start to become important, right? And so, like, I think that's what we can learn. If we could start to apply those to our daily lives now, instead of waiting till we're 70, 80 before we figure it out. Imagine how beautiful that would be, right? I mean, you're what, 8 years older than me, so I'm sure, you come from a different background, so family has always had a different role in your life, but still, even you could probably imagine, as you're getting older, man, it just changes the dynamic of things, right?
Well, I've always known how to use the tools that I have around me, and right now the tools that I have around me are like a future son-in-law and boyfriends of my daughters. So instead of getting on that roof, I can throw one of them up there.
Right.
They'll get up there. They're fine with it. They get the points of feeling like, wow, I did something for him. Now he likes me more, and I get the feeling like I don't have to embarrass myself,
right.
fall down and die. Right. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. You know what? Because my daughter, our oldest daughter, Dana and I's oldest daughter, Dahlia, is getting married this month. It's here now. February starts.
21 days.
This is the month. Yeah, this is the month that Dahlia gets married to John. And now, I was with my mom this weekend, and we were talking, and I was like, you know what? We waited quite a while to have kids. We waited right towards our 30s to have kids. Because Dana and I got together 20 and 19, so we could have had them all throughout our 20s, and we didn't. We just wanted to enjoy each other, enjoy life, because we knew once you have kids, it's all about kids, right?
Yep.
But then our 30s was all about kids, since our 30s. And so now we're looking at it and we're going, wow, man, I could be a grandparent now. Like so many of my friends, so many of the high school guys, they're grandparents, because they had kids in their 20s. And I'm thinking, Mom, in like 2 to 3 years, I could be a grandfather, an abuelo. That's crazy. And then she goes, oh, and she's looking at me like you're old. I go, don't laugh at me. You could be a bisabuela, a great grandmother. Are you ready for that?
Right.
And so when you look at life like that, I think that's when it kind of gets scary and gets real for you. You know, as long as there's a generation above you, there's a buffer.
Right.
But when the generation above you no longer is there, not that you can't die in my time, because clearly you can, but you still feel relatively safer.
Right.
But
yeah, that makes sense.
Once you're that final generation, and all the aunts that you grew up with are gone, all the uncles you grew up with are gone, all your parents and your grandparents are gone. That's gotta be something psychologically that plays in your head, man. I gotta think that every time my parents watch us drive away on Christmas Eve, you know, after Christmas, that they think, wow, how many of these will we have left? Right. I gotta think that when they're sitting at Thanksgiving, they're thinking, how many of these we got? You know what I'm saying? They have to view aging very differently than we do. And instead of fearing that for myself, because we all die, there's no way out of this.
Yeah.
I want to embrace it. I want to die gracefully, man. I want to die with dignity and no concern. I want to die knowing I put it all out here, man. I did what I had to do. It wasn't all perfect. It wasn't all great. There were many flaws, but I lived it. I lived my life. You know what I mean? I didn't cheat my life. I lived it, and so that's what's interesting. And so to hear somebody committing suicide, like, you know, besides this beauty queen that you were talking about, why we're talking about this today, committing suicide. You know, 25 or 26 veterans commit suicide on a daily basis.
Yep.
There's so many people that commit suicide and rob themselves of an opportunity to make it better, rob their families and everyone around them of having them and joyfully enjoying them for another day. I can't wrap my head around that too well, man. Right. You know what I mean? That's what makes it difficult. I can't. May I never. Here's what it is. I can't say I'll never do it, because you never know, right?
Yeah.
We're the humans, right? We're human, and that's part of the human experience is to grapple with that. But may I never cheat myself and my family in that way. May I never think that this life cannot get better.
Right.
I hope I never, ever, ever feel it to the degree where I commit something like that to myself. And so I feel for any family member out there that lost a family member like that, or loved one like that.
I'm going to touch on some comments here that we have. Richard said, Trinity, do you mean as you have gotten older, your perspective with your priorities and have been able to be more effective with less capability? Yeah, I think so. I think, well, I don't know. I'm hesitant to say more capable, just differently, right? Because when I was young, man, I got a lot of stuff done. Like I came in like a powerhouse, and I just like a hurricane would come through and get a bunch of stuff done. And so I think I still get quite a bit done, but differently. You know, like I use different muscles. I'm more intellectual now, and like he said, I'm better now than I've ever been in my life at delegating. I'm better now at asking for help that I wasn't before. Before, I probably should have asked for help more, and I didn't. I just muscled through it, or I just whatever. And maybe sometimes things got done, but not as well as they could have had I asked for help. So as I've gotten older, part of getting older and accepting that is learning how to ask for help. And learning to ask for help isn't a weakness. It's just, you know, it's the smart thing to do, man. Like, and then, so I don't know if I'm hesitant to say more effective, but definitely differently, right? Like I don't feel like the aging has held me back. If anything, it has helped me extend my reach a little bit. So in that sense, I guess you could say more effective. And then Leo said, if you stay cognitive, you can share your wealth of experiences and mistakes to a younger person. That sustains your ability as a senior citizen to keep moving on. Don't let the AARP mail get to you. It's all good, bro.
I am a member of AARP.
Bro, I get an invite every month now. I don't understand. I thought you had to be a lot older. But I thought you had to be older. Don't you have to be like in your 50s for that?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
How old do you have to be? What's the age?
Check the discount. You better Google that.
But I'm literally getting every month. I get like, this is your January invite. I'm like, wait, AARP.
No, they're going by your gray beard.
Right. But yeah, I think it's interesting that you brought that up, though. The way I never really looked at it that way, of being the last generation, right? Because I guess to an extent, I see where you're coming from. You know, as long as there's a generation above you, you still feel young, right? To an extent, you still feel like, oh, okay, well, I'm not there yet. But when you start becoming there, yeah, I can see how that would totally start to change the dynamic, right?
Yeah.
I know we were going to do a show on death, so I don't want to get too far into some of this, but I do realize for myself. So I've had a lot of death as far as friends and things of that nature, but there are always things like car accidents or, one-off type stuff. So it never really hit. But over the last couple months, COVID aside, I've started noticing, I'm at that age now where a lot of my friends are starting to die. Like when I hear of a death now, it's not always something crazy, right? Like I'm hearing people dying of heart disease or people dying of, other medical, complications and whatnot. And so we're finally starting to get to the age where age is starting to where the things that can come along with age are starting to take us out. And so that is that's something I'm not sure if I've even grappled with myself, to be honest with you. That I'm at the age now where medical things can take me out. It's never really, I don't think I've ever really sat with that. I'm aware of it intellectually, but I'm not sure if the magnitude has really hit me that people my age can die of heart attacks. It happens. And it's not a shock, my wife sometimes will say things like that, especially when we start joking around, and I think she maybe because she's had more medical issues in her life than I have, and so she's definitely more hyper aware of that when we start to joke around. She'll joke to a point, and then she's like, all right, it's not funny anymore. Right. Towards me, I'm not sure if it's quite hit me yet because I've been pretty healthy my whole life. But yeah, man, that is another thing with aging that you have to take seriously is when you start to age, other things can take you out, man. It's not just a car accident anymore. But go ahead.
Right. No, I was going to say it's kind of funny because when you're younger and you look at your parents and you think genetics, all you think about is the gifts that they gave you, right? The reason I can't, how did I not get my dad's voice?
Right.
Dang it, man! My dad had the genetics of voice and I didn't get it, but at least I got my dad's height instead of my mom's height. You look at those kinds of genetic pass-me-downs, right? But then you get older, and when you start thinking, if they live and they do real well health-wise, then you start thinking about those genetics.
Right.
Well, and they're both in their 80s, man. So that's
yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if you're our age and you're like, wow, my parents died in my 50s. Like my wife's dad died in his 50s. He was 50.
Wow.
So I remember my first goal was to live past his age, to live past my wife's dad's age.
Wow.
Of 50. Because for some reason that was just in my head that he died so young, and I was thinking, oh my God, for a guy that I thought I was going to die before 18, and then in my 20s, and then 30, and then to be this old is I just got to get past these age.
Well, think about that though. You just said 50 being young. I remember a time in my life where 50 was ancient. You know what I mean? I remember 18, 19 years old. Hearing 50, I'm like, dude, you're old. But now
50 was old when I was 30. I was thinking
yeah. Now that I'm approaching, I'm like, 50 is really not that bad. It's really not. Leo just said,
I'm gonna embrace these 50s because at 60s, that's a whole other level.
Yeah. So Leo said, my mental capabilities far exceeds my physical capabilities. Can't get on the roof anymore, but I can tear an engine apart and back together. Cut my grass every week at 62. And then he said, my dad died at my age now. So that's crazy.
And Leo's healthy, man. Leo can move. At 62.
Right on.
I'm looking at, damn, I hope I can make it to 62 and I can move like Leo.
Right. Yeah.
I can't move like Leo now, and I'm 52.
No, absolutely. I don't know. I just think that I really do think that aging, a lot of it boils down to perspective. I really do, man. Yeah. I think that if you look at aging as this horrible thing and you fight every step of it, then I think that you're doing yourself a disservice, right? You're missing the beauty that comes with it, the grace that comes with it. And it is there.
Something to say to that.
Go ahead.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that what I think I did not do correctly, and I'm not saying that I would do it differently now, but I would encourage prevention to people. I would encourage that there's a lot of prevention that could be done. There's a lot of upkeep that you can do on this machine.
Yes.
That it can at least give you a different quality of life as you age. I didn't do a lot of the stuff, preventative measures that would have given me a better quality of life. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying that
100%
longer, because we all know people that were in great shape that just they were joggers and poof, they're gone. Yep. But that achiness, that I have to believe that if I was doing yoga all my life, that some of these movements might be a little easier.
Well, it makes me think of Jack LaLanne.
or like ¿cómo se dice? Like lotions and stuff. Like
Right.
guys don't do. But that would have been a smart thing for guys to
It
do.
makes me think of Jack LaLanne. The dude was like 90 something
Yeah.
years old, doing pull ups and riding like jet skis and stuff like that.
Right.
Because we see it, right? Like we see it all the time. We see like in our real day to day lives, we've all had comparisons of somebody who's like,
Yeah.
let's
See,
just
at the beach, there's guys 10 or 15, 20 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, they look great.
yeah, let's just use the 40 as an example. I've seen people who are 40 who look and they look phenomenal, and they're out there doing amazing things, and it's just like wow. But then I see other people at 40 who are barely getting by, who look like, man, it's been a rough life,
It's been rough.
Yeah, man, it's not a whole lot of miles, but they're all on dirt road, and so we've all seen that.
How old are you? How old are you again?
41. I was 81, so this
You're
is
younger
41.
than Brady, bro.
Yeah,
You're younger than Brady.
yeah, money.
He's still throwing the rock.
Yeah, there's no way I'm in a condition right now to go out there and try to win a Super Bowl. There's no way. I wouldn't even make it through practice right now. But then how many other have, right? Most quarterbacks, that's not the bar, right? The bar isn't 45. I think Vinny Testaverde came close. He was like 40 something when he was playing. But yeah, like I agree with you, prevention. And it's not just the physicality either. It's the cognitive stuff as well. Taking care of yourself, reading things, doing things that mentally challenge you as well to keep the brain sharp. Because that to me is the scariest part for me now is losing that mental capability. I've always prided myself on feeling. I think you sell yourself short there, but
I really did. I mean, there was some things that I put in my system real early on that apparently created some permanent changes. Regardless of what people might say, there was some permanent changes in that. Now that doesn't say I wasn't sharp in other areas,
right.
But when it came to like memory, when it came to giving too much of an F, no, I kind of went with that.
Sure.
It's like running when there's cops behind you. Like people would say, did you run? No, I never ran. There was a cop. Like Leo was a cop. So Leo, if you were chasing me, I'd just stand there. I always just stood there. Why? Because one time I ran and they put their knee in my neck and that hurt really bad. And I said, I am never running from these kids. That guy was so mad that I made him run. So every time after that, whenever they would say stop, I'm like, it hurt. Everybody else like.
Right on. All right, well, let's start wrapping up, man. We're getting close. I know we got a few minutes left, so let me go ahead and give you the floor here. Aging.
You give me the floor and I got nothing to say. All right, listen. Age right, age appropriately. Look, you're going to age anyway. It's going to happen anyway. So there's nothing you can say, nothing you can do that's going to prevent it or stop it. Now, you can change your perspective and try to lie to yourself, but the real deal is change your perspective instead of lying to yourself, but change your perspective in regards to how horrible it really is, because it's not. It's a beautiful thing. I want to experience every number I can possibly experience. What is 52 going to feel like? What is 53 going to feel like? What is 54? What is it going to feel like to be a grandparent? What is it going to feel like to watch your grandchild walk down the aisle instead of what I'm about to experience as a father walk down the aisle? And why do I say all that? Because I know the countless people that will never, ever have the opportunity to experience that. Unfortunately, my wife's dad was not there for our wedding. That was a sad moment. We dedicated some time to him. My daughter's fiance, his father's not going to be there for this moment. So I'm sure we'll dedicate some time to him. So I want to embrace every moment. I don't want to disrespect all the dead by not embracing and being grateful for the life that I got right now. And that's all I got to say.
Right on. Yeah, well, before I give my wrap up, thanks everybody for tuning in. Once again, if you're listening to this on one of the podcast platforms, thank you. But you want to watch it live, you can go to facebook.com/WPSN99. We are Dope and Dharma. If you type in Dope and Dharma, for whatever reason, Facebook will yell at you and make you jump through a bunch of hoops to find us because they're worried about the dope word. But you can find us that way. If you are watching this live and you like to listen on your podcast, wherever, you can, any platform really, you look up Dope and Dharma. We are on there. And then social media, he is at the Dope Doctor, and I am at the Dharma Guy. So by all means, like, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff. Anyways, so let me, yeah, man, aging's awesome. It really is. I think aging is what it is. It's your perspective that makes it awesome. I've seen many people who grow to be just angry old people, just bitter at the world, and just stressed out and angry, and it shows, right? Like they're physically, it manifests itself by their inability to do things and just aging so quickly physically. And then I see other people who are just, they're just so happy and they're joyful, and their age is up there, but you would never know it by looking at them. They're walking around, and I think there's something to that. And I think it's all about perspective. I think if you approach it with the right perspective and you're grateful for the lessons that you've learned, you accept where you're currently at and everything that comes with it, I think that it makes aging so much better. I love the fact. When I was a kid, I never experienced the idea of being 41. I thought of, my teens, I thought of 18, I thought of 21, and I think it stopped at like 25. I never pictured myself after that. So, where I'm at now, it's pretty cool, man. I gotta say, getting older is not the worst thing. It definitely comes with some adjustments, but if you make those adjustments and you accept it, aging is a fantastic thing. So if you're out there and you're worried about aging, if you're thinking people are judging you and things of that nature, I promise you they're not. And I promise you aging is a fantastic thing if you let it. So anyways, I think that's all I got. Thank you guys so much. And now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.